Welcome back to Break Room this week. In my solo episode this week, I'm going to be talking about rejection. Not a fun thing to go through, but in our career or life, you are going to experience rejection. Majority of us will encounter a no, or all of a sudden it feels like a door closes on us. And I want to walk you through some tips. These are not step-by-step approaches for rejection because everyone is different and everyone is going to sit through the stage of rejection differently. But I want to offer up some additional support for you because it will happen and it's really tough to go through. I first want to call out that rejection does not mean that you're not good enough. It doesn't mean that you're not qualified. It doesn't mean that you interviewed wrong or you have the wrong skills. I want you to remember that this doesn't mean you're broken or you're not good enough. It just means that there's some flawed assessments out there that can really be limiting for us. Performance reviews, or who gets the promotion, who gets the job. There are biases. These decisions are made by humans still, I think, unless AI takes over everything. But right now, these decisions are made by humans. And we have to understand that sometimes those humans do make judgments or decisions about us and our experiences very quickly that can shut the door. But what it means is it's actually a new opportunity for you to take this door being closed on you and reopen another one that is sitting next to you or behind you that you might have not been looking at. So a few things here, I'm going to kind of walk through 6 different topics, or I should say tips, that are going to help you. The first in rejection is please lean into support. That could be a coach, a mentor, a friend, your sibling, anyone, a spouse, someone. And I think so often we try to go through rejection and cover it up right away. We try to say, I'm okay, don't worry about it. We might not even share that we've been rejected. And then what happens is this rejection stack starts and it starts to really pile up and it's heavy. After a little bit of no, and no, maybe for a job especially, it feels very heavy. So lean into support. You have to. My clients often come to me and just want to talk through rejection because it sucks. And just talking through it can help you get out of your mind from spiraling into just talking through that process. The second is know what you can control. So in your career, there's often a lot of things you can't control. We can't control budget. We can't control bias. We can't control what a business needs. We can't control multiple interviewers making a decision. We can't control that stuff. We can't control the market. And maybe that job closed without you realizing it. Or maybe an internal candidate did get that role because they really do have the skills. And so these are all the things out of our control. And I want you to really remember this from a hiring instance, especially, and even promotional. There's often a lot of internal budgetary resource conversations that only from an HR sense you would really know what's happening behind the scenes. I can tell you from being in HR and talent for over a decade, there's conversations weekly about the budget or changes in goals and priorities. So this can really happen, especially in smaller companies where decisions are rapidly kind of shifted and made. At bigger companies, priorities still shift. And sometimes it even is at a bigger scale where they thought they were going to build a big team and now they have to pause and completely pivot into building a whole other team. And so I just want to remind you of this. There's things out of your control and sometimes you just have to let go and let them and move forward. Hard to move forward, but that little step of knowing what you can control and what you can't is something to be aware of. Now, what you can control is how you show up, how you process. Some other things you can control are who you talk to, who you go to for help, ask for help. These are the things you can really focus on. Another thing is improving your own interview skills. We can always get better. We can always maybe be more adaptable in a business setting to get that promotion, right? So look at the things that you can control, but don't overly focus on that you're broken and you are just not at all capable. So please remember this. The next is know what you're good at. Do not forget all your achievements and your strengths. So whether this is keeping a list of achievements on your resume, I'm definitely starting to see this trend of resumes really forming into achievements. So I love this because it's very story-based versus bullet point, generic, keyword based. But if you're not putting a resume together and you're rejected for maybe a promotion or you're in the midst of interviewing, just come back to your strengths and what you're really good at. Sometimes we're interviewing for jobs or going up for a promotion for a job that actually in the end just, you know what? It wasn't a match. It wasn't a long-term fit. And don't forget to come back to your foundation. I often love to come back to assessments and who I am. The Enneagram's a really good one. DISC is a good one. Clifton Strengths through Gallup is a really great assessment. Now, when you are being kicked and you're being told no, the last thing you probably want to do is sit and do an online assessment. I totally get it. But if we forget what we're good at, we're going to let that external commotion dictate our self-worth. And we cannot allow that to happen because it will break us. So do not forget what you're good at. You are unique and you need to remember this. So again, keep this in a journal, a Word doc, your resume, start a portfolio or start a website of all the things you've done well and you're good at and come back to this. I sometimes need to be reminded, like going to my LinkedIn page, like, okay, let me come back to what I'm good at versus looking at all the other people's promotions. True story, I had a client tell me the other day that LinkedIn is just crushing her because she's seeing all, her colleague or previous colleagues or friends get these jobs and promotions. And in that moment, that is rejection. You are rejecting yourself from positions that you might not have even applied to. So please remember this. Don't forget what you're good at. The fourth thing in rejection is redirection. So cheesy, but honestly, it really is so valid. I want you to imagine you're in a small room and you only had one door open and then that door closed from rejection. But now, all of a sudden, this door kind of further behind you in the corner has just peeked open. And you weren't looking in that direction before. You weren't even thinking about it. And now it's starting to open because this new opportunity closed and a new one is starting to pop up because of timing. I really want you to visualize this for your constant career, is that on your path, it's sometimes going to feel like you're stuck in this dark room and that there's nothing opening up for you, but somehow there's going to be these little moments where little cracks in the door will open. And that is a redirection. There's been so many times where I know that I missed out on an opportunity only because there was something so much better for me. It might have not been immediate though. And this is the challenge with rejection is you're rejected. It isn't always the next day or the next week or even the next month that you're getting that redirection. So be patient with the redirection. I wish I could tell you it happens overnight, but it doesn't always. But I promise you, it is there. It is there in that faint distance and it will open up for you, but you really have to be patient. And you also have to have that awareness and ability to lift your head up. Speaking of that, that takes me to kind of tip number 5, which is resilience. If you want to picture you are stuck in mud, and resilience is the ability to literally have your mind trigger your leg and your arms to push yourself out of that mud with the most strength you've ever had. That is resilience. Resilience is not standing there and giving up or falling over. It is the ability to literally have the emotional strength, physical strength, mental strength to be able to lift yourself up in your head in that moment and recognize what is a small thing I can do. You might hit rock bottom. There might be a moment where you've been rejected 50 to 100 times, and that resilience is going to move you then to that yes or that next opportunity. Resilience is something to me that is such a grit feeling, deep down in your stomach, in your heart. It becomes very heavy and layered sometimes, but it's there. And I don't believe, this is my own thoughts, and I've done a lot of research on resilience. I've gone to conferences on resilience. And what I've learned is it doesn't, depending on what you've gone through in life, it doesn't mean that certain people have or are born with more resilience. You have to work through it. You have to build it. You have to tap into it. So I want to remind you that this isn't a personality trait. And again, there's been research on this from a resilience component. That's why when you take a strengths assessment, it's not popping up that, yes, your number one strength is resilience, because it really just depends on who you are in that moment of your life. The final tip is accountability to take new action. So after you've gone through this really tough time of rejection and the doors have closed on you, there's going to be a moment where you have to be accountable for taking new action to create that new direction. And this new action just might be, again, checking in with a support. It might be honestly doing something for yourself to regenerate that more new thoughts and to stop spiraling. It could be that you took an action to take a walk. It could be the action that you decided to reach out to that one extra person on LinkedIn. It could be that you decided to actually start your portfolio or go back to school. Commit to yourself. Like, these are all small little steps. It doesn't mean that that action is, okay, I'm going to land a new job. That's several steps down the way, but a step could be very, very simple and small. Like I said, it could just be closing down LinkedIn for the day, actually, because it's just distracting you and it's really wearing on your self-worth. So you're going to take an action to do something else offline. Do not forget the action piece, because that will help move you forward. And I think in rejection, it's so hard to understand sometimes what actions to take, but please remind yourself that it could be very, very small. And those little small moments are 1% more. Before you know it, you're 10% ahead of where you were last week without even really recognizing it. Break down big goals into small little steps. This is going to help you feel less overwhelmed, also less frustrated in the mix, and it's going to be able to help you step by step each day get there. Whatever that big goal is for you, break it down a little bit. And again, this is where you can lean into support of a coach, of a mentor, of maybe your manager or a coworker, to say like, hey, I want to get here. What do you think else could I do to really position myself for this opportunity, for this job? And talk to other people. That action alone, talking to other people, is huge for creating progress. So I want to put an end cap on this conversation to encourage you that if you have been through rejection, you are not alone. Look around. There's probably so many people that are not coming out and saying it. Always throw on an episode of Shark Tank, because those entrepreneurs go through so much rejection and they talk you through how much they've been through. Sometimes it's just like really kind of level setting with ourselves that rejection is reality sometimes, but we are capable of moving forward. So if you need more help or want to talk through rejection, don't hesitate to reach out to me on LinkedIn, my website. You know where to find me. Thank you for stopping by this week.